is gonna be a two-parter, but since I'm not sure when I cut off last time, so you got your two fiends, right? And you got your Death Knight with rods. So here's where the build differs. You can do a two fiend tech. So at this point, players would just be saving up until they tech up the tier 2. Another thing players could also have done is to do a one fiend tech, which I don't recommend doing at all. But they would have just skipped down the second fiend and got a quicker tech. Me, I do the 3 fiend tech. It's very safe. It delays my tier 2. So I'm going to build another fiend once resources allow, and then I'm going to build my 3rd ghoul before teching to tier 2. But there are different ways it could differ. But for players who are new to Undead, don't know this build at all, I recommend doing mine. It's very safe early game with this. You see I start my 3rd fiend now. My hero's going off and creeping. And then at 120 gold, I'm going to start a ghoul. Unless I'm multitasking too much on these nulls. I should be starting a ghoul now. Wow. There we go. There we go. Start my 3rd ghoul. And then, of course, once resources allow, 320 gold, 220 wood is when you start your tier 2, and that is pretty much the build. At tier 2 you'll get your lich, or you know, the heroes, any hero you want. Mostly it's the lich, and then slaughterhouse, and then you know, you differ from there. You can differ onto the just fiend destroyers, you can differ onto banshees, you know, anything you want to do. So that's pretty much that build. Now there's one more undead build that is commonly used. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the ghoul build. Everyone knows the ghoul build at this point. Let me just do something real quick and we'll talk about that ghoul build. Alright, so the ghoul build. Common heroes that go with this build are most of the time a Death Knight first, although in Undead Mirror you can open up with a Lich first if you're feeling really aggressive. Second heroes that go with this build are usually the Lich and Naga or Panda. And third heroes can be the Panda, Tinker, Dreadlord, Cryptlord. And I actually messed up. You don't really see it anymore, but you can open up with the Dreadlord or a Cryptlord first if you're just trying to have a fun time and don't want to be all try-hardy. That is something you can do. So common matchups that use this build in are Undead versus Night Elf. Yeah, we've been waiting for it. This is the only build I recommend using versus Night Elf. Undead Mirror, or Undead versus Human. Now it used to not be like that, but it's coming back into meta. The Undeads are starting to ghoul more versus Human, which is actually kind of an old school strategy that's becoming more popular again amongst the Asian humans, at least. We'll see if it follows the European players as well. So strategies you can go off into by using this build. You could do a tier 3 frenzied ghoul push, which is very strong versus Night Elf. Very strong. You could do a 2 crypt ghoul all in, once again very strong versus Night Elf. You can do it versus Human too. There's actually a really cool game on the Back to Warcraft's Top 100 playlist. It's Ted versus Todd on Lost Temple, and Ted did a 2 crypt ghoul all in. It was a really entertaining game. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. Mass Destroyers is another thing you can do with this build. It's very strong versus Human, where the Undead will open ghouls, will be aggressive versus the Expo, you know, all that. And then at tier 3 they'll do double slaughterhouse destroyers, so they'll have like 4 destroyers up in the air, and they can push on the humans expansion because destroyers with mana just slice through human towers. So it's very strong versus humans, and that's probably one of the reasons why it's starting to come back in the fashion. And another thing you can do is gargoyle play. 2 crypt garg. You don't really see this anymore, like, at all. Like, gargoyle play has just fallen off the meta completely, but it's something Undead used to do quite a bit versus Night Elf, and I mean, you can still pull it out every once in a while if you want to. Just open up ghouls, and then at tier 2 you get gargs. Most of the time this is done with the solo Death Knight, but you can add some Lich with Lich or a Naga with it as well. There are some pros and cons to this build though. Some pros are you get a quicker tech out. It allows the undead to be very aggressive, like extremely aggressive. Like if you're feeling to be aggressive, this is a build you should do, because you can't really be super aggressive with fiend builds. It's good for creeping. Yes, if you don't want to be aggressive, there you can get plenty of ghouls out at the start and allow you to creep up your first hero very well. It allows you to bank up a lot of lumber, which is one of the reasons why you can afford double slaughterhouse production destroyers, because you have all those ghouls getting wood for you. And it's a good build to deal with early aggression. Now this mostly leans towards undead versus undead. If you open up ghouls, you can definitely defend a lot of early pushes a lot easier than you could with a fiend opener. Now, I honestly sat there for a while and thought about some cons, and I think the first con's just me being bad, but it could be another thing. We're not all like 120 micro level here, but some cons to this build are it requires a lot of micro, especially if like the night elf gets a panda or something. You definitely have to micro your heart out with the ghouls, especially in the late game. And then of course with like hero surrounds and stuff like that, compared to fiends, it requires a lot more micro. And in the late game, ghouls can be squishy. They're not meant to be a late game unit, but most of the time ghouls are your main, you know, damage soaker in the army if you open up ghouls. So ghouls can be very squishy. Those are honestly the only two cons I could possibly think of for the ghoul build. So, as I say that, let's hop right on in and I could show you the ghoul build. Alright, game has started. You immediately start up an acolyte, and then you're going to move this an acolyte out and build a crypt and an altar. There it is. So, acolyte, crypt, altar, and you're actually going to delay your second acolyte. Don't build your second acolyte right away. The next thing you're going to build is a ziggurat at 155 gold. There we go. Now you're going to start your fifth acolyte to fully mine from the base at 75 gold. Boom, there he goes. And I forgot to turn on the sound. There we go. So yes, you're gonna have all those acolytes, and actually with your fifth acolyte, he's gonna build the shop when he comes out. So as you can see, I moved my rally point. That's where I want to build my shop. Boom. So you got your five acolytes. You're mining fully off of your base, and then the next thing you're gonna do is start up your first hero, whether it be a lich or a death knight. This one's a death knight. So open up your first hero and start up a ghoul. Boom. And of course you gotta wait for the ziggurat to finish. Boom. There, got my first hero going. And then you just start up with the second ghoul, and then the next thing you're gonna do is build your second ziggurat at 155 gold. I think I put mine here. Yeah. And then you just keep pumping out ghouls. Now, another thing you can do with this build to get some early scouting off, if you don't want to build another acolyte, is what I do once you get your second ghoul out, you send one of them out to scout. I think I was a little late on it, but I do it in this build. Yeah. Send a ghoul out to scout. You get your early scouting. Maybe just be a little annoying with wisps or something. So by the time your death knight comes out, you should have 5 ghouls. I'm gonna have I lied, 4 ghouls. So you're gonna have 3 in my base, because I did send one out to scout. And when the death knight comes out, of course, pick up a rod of necromancy. If you I'm going out to creep, but if you want to be aggressive, I recommend getting a dust of appearance if you're versus night elf. And I'm gonna keep pumping ghouls. Pull your 4 ghouls, and then creep or be aggressive. And then of course I got my scout. Night elf's angry about it. Push my ghoul away. And basically I'm just gonna keep pumping ghouls until you're supposed to get up to like 8 ghouls by the time you start tier 2, if I remember correctly. I don't actually remember the number off the top of my head. It's like I'm a robot with this. And keep in mind, there's actually many different ways to doing ghouls. I'm actually doing Happy style. This is the way Happy does it, like WFZ or 120. They'll not get as many ghouls and just get a quicker tech out. But me, I like to do Happy style because it allows me to get plenty of ghouls out for creeping in the early game. So there's my little explanation of that. So yeah, just keep doing that. I did manage to save my scout ghoul. I actually think I messed up the build in this one. I don't think I was supposed to start the third Zig. But, whoops. Anyways, once you get enough resources, start your tier 2. Boom. And then keep building ghouls. I know by the time your tier 2 finishes, you're going to want 10 ghouls. So like right now I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I would only need to build 1 more ghoul. But that's pretty much the basic of this build. When tier 2 hits, you can get a Naga from the neutral hero if you're feeling aggressive, or you can still go with the Lich second. This versus Night Elf versus Undead, I recommend going Lich second. And in Undead Mirror, a lot of times with the ghouls, you open up with the Lich first anyways. But this is pretty much the basics of this build. Now those are the 3 most common Undead builds used in ladder or in the pro scene today. So if you guys like this, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel and honestly leave a comment. Tell me what I could have did better, because I'm planning on doing the other races as well. They're little build orders, so I definitely need to know what I did wrong. So hope you guys enjoyed and enjoy learning Undead.